This is Canada Reads American Style, featuring two friends who love Canada Reads and Canadian literature. Welcome our host Rebecca from Michigan and Tara from Ontario.
Hi everyone, it is Rebecca, and Tara and I have a special guest to do our reader repartee, and I'm actually going to turn it over to Tara because, well, first I want to say it makes it look like I have no friends because it's always Tara's family and friends that do the reader repartee, and I promise you I do have a few friends that will appear in the future, but Tara has another wonderful friend that she'd like to introduce.
Okay. Yes, I am probably using up my source of friends actually right about now, Marnie. You may be the last one. So today we have joining Marnie, my friend here in Burlington. She is she's my book buddy here in Burlington. We met several years ago. Come on in, Marnie.
Hi guys. Thanks for having me on. This is very exciting.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
I'm happy
excited
to
to
be
have
here.
you. Good, good. You have a better memory than I do. So do you want to tell people how we met?
Yes, absolutely. So I actually can't remember what year it is, but it's probably been
Yeah.
about 5 years now, Tara, that we've known each other. And we met through your Etsy shop. I don't know if your listeners know that you used to have this wonderful soap making business, and I like to support local businesses. So I discovered you through your wonderful soaps that sadly you no longer make. And I'm going to go sideways here for a little bit and just tell you that I found one of your soaps in the back of my cupboard the other day when I was cleaning it out, and I was so happy
No way.
to find one of your soaps still wrapped up in the back of my cupboard because they
Nice.
were amazing. So yeah, we met because I was trying to save on the shipping costs, and I drove down to your house to pick up my lovely soap, and we found out that we had a connection through knitting and books,
Mhm.
and it's been a match made in heaven ever since.
Yeah. We even recently went on a little like bookish, what would be the word? I'm going to
A
say
book
event.
date, a
Book
book
date.
date.
That's right. When we
Yeah.
saw Douglas Stuart at the
Yes.
library. Yes, which was amazing.
Yeah, definitely need to do more of those in our future now that the restrictions here have been lifted.
We do. We do. And then when Rebecca joins us on a visit sometime, then the three of us will have to do like a little bookish date.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So enough about me. Marnie, let's start our reader repartee. And why don't you tell us how you became a reader?
So, first of all, kudos to your questions, guys. I was reading them and I'm, trying to come up with these lovely answers. And the uh the first memory I have of reading, I mean, I've always been a reader, I think. I was born with a book in my hand, I feel, because my mom was also an avid reader. And I just remember growing up always seeing my mom sitting in the corner with a book, and it was always a Harlequin romance.
Nice.
And so she always had books, no matter what. There was books everywhere in our house. But I do remember, I think it was about my 10th birthday. Sorry, not my 10th birthday. I was around 10 and it was Christmas. And I remember getting a Narnia book in my stocking from Santa,
Mm.
which of course was my mother because she would be the one to put a book in my stocking. And it was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And even though I had been a reader up until that point, this book hooked me, of course, with the
Yeah.
the mystical, magical wardrobe that these children find this, other world in. It sucked me in. And from that point on, I think I was probably never without a book nearby from that day.
Well, how funny because I think most of our guests who've been on Reader Repartee have said it was their mothers that got
Mhm.
them into reading. So I love that. Shout out to all those wonderful mothers out there who are encouraging their kids to read. And secondly, I've never read the full series of the Chronicles of Narnia, and I just reread like a week or 2 weeks ago. I just reread The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So that's so cool. So
It definitely It's a wonderful series to get back into, Rebecca. I just read it. Well, I shouldn't say just. My daughter's 12 now, but probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I read the entire series again with her. And she's an avid reader as well. But back then, I mean, she was reading books on her own, but I made it a point to always have a book to read with her at the end of the night. And it was not necessarily one that she would pick up on her own, but it was one that I felt, would be good for us to read together. So the Narnia series was one that I made sure we would read every night before she went
That's
to bed.
awesome. Well, now my question for you is, what book do you wish you could read again for the first time and have that experience of that feeling of having read it for the first time?
So this is a fantastic question, but it's also probably one of the hardest questions that I've ever had about reading, because there are so many books out there that have, grabbed you for the first time. And of course, Narnia being one of them, only because it was a book that I absolutely still recall, 30 odd years later. And so it was a hard question, but I did narrow it down a bit. And I'm wondering, can I read you an excerpt from the book before I tell you which one it is?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the first paragraph of this book. Long before we discovered that he had fathered two children by two different women, one in Dimaline and one in Clonakilty, Father James Monroe stood on the altar of the Church of Our Lady, Star of the Sea, in the parish of Goleen, West Cork, and denounced my mother as a whore.
That sounds
So,
familiar.
Tara, you'll probably recognize it because it's the first sentence in The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne.
Yes. Have you read this, Rebecca?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Marnie.
Oh, I was just going to say, I read the book probably about 5 years ago now, and I still think about it a lot. I haven't reread it, although it sits on my nightstand looking at me like, you need to reread me every day. But it's just such a profound, well-written epic of a novel that I wish, and I just remember the feeling I had the first time I read it, just being,
Mhm.
spellbound by this story. And it's one that I wish I could go back and kind of read again for the first time. And I'm always recommending it to people. I think I recommended it to you, Tara, and I think
Yes.
I recommended it to every single one of my book club members. So
Yeah. You're the reason why I read it too, and I absolutely love this book.
Is this a Canadian author, by the way?
no, he's Irish. So
Irish. Okay. Oh, that would
yeah,
make sense, of course. Yeah.
I love to read Irish authors because my mother was born in Kilkenny. So anything kind of,
Oh,
and I lived in
nice.
Dublin for a short time, many years ago, but anything that's set in Ireland kind of draws me to it. But John Boyne just has this way with words. Most of the novels by him I've read, I've thoroughly enjoyed. So I highly recommend it, Rebecca. Definitely pick it up.
Oh, I'm definitely going to check it out because I mean, it kind of gave me chills, to be honest with you. When you finished, I was just like, oh gosh, that's amazing. So, yeah, I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, I have to reread that now too. Thank you, Marnie.
Absolutely. I know, me too. I'll pretend it is the first time.
Okay, which author, living or dead, would you like to meet in person and why?
So this was also a hard question. I mean, you think the questions are easy when you first hear them, but then when you
Mhm.
sit down to think about it, you're like, okay, well, this person and that person. So I had a hard time narrowing this one down, but I think I've been reading a lot, and this is probably a bit of a cop out for an answer because I'm not sure that I can choose just one, but I've been reading a lot of Indigenous authors lately.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So Richard Wagamese, Thomas
Yep.
King, Cherie Dimaline. I've read a lot of their novels, and any one of them I would be happy
Yeah.
to sit down with and just, hear more about their life, how, their life experiences, and just, spend time with them learning more about their culture and, just immersing myself in it, I guess.
Mhm.
So I can't really narrow it down to one. Although, Tara, after
Yes.
meeting Douglas Stewart, well, seeing Douglas Stewart
Yeah.
at the library last week, I'd really like to go out for drinks with him too.
Me too. I
He
feel like
seems
we
like,
met him anyways because we had like a little interaction at the end.
yeah. I mean, it
Yeah.
was short and sweet, but I feel like he's someone I would love to go to a pub with and just sit and,
Yeah.
have a conversation with and just learn more about his life and his upbringing.
Okay, so now you have to explain, Tara, what was your little interaction, though? Now we want to know.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, Marnie I have not read any of his books. He was delightful, right?
Mhm.
Marnie, he was amazing, his
Amazing.
whole talk. And Marnie had read his first book, and this was for his second book. So you purchased a second book. And we were at first, we weren't after the talk. We stayed and chatted while a lot of other people went and got their books signed. Then near the end, Marnie decided to go buy a book. I wasn't going to. I was going because I'm on kind of a book diet.
Mhm.
I'm trying to get through my stack that I have here. So, but I went and stood in line with Marnie, and then I decided spur of the moment to just buy a book too because he's like my new literary crush. I'm like, I gotta buy his book. He's like right there, and he's won. Which prize was it? He's won which award?
Oh
Was it the
gosh.
Booker?
The Booker Prize. Yeah, I think it
Yes,
was the Booker.
Wow.
yes. So when it was my turn to go get my book signed, he's Scottish. He had this wonderful accent. He's very attractive. And I just went up to him. I'm like, a great read, and I can't wait to read this. I didn't mean to buy this book, but I'm like, you won the Booker. I'm never going to see you again. And he's like, wow, Tara, that's really dark. I'm like, I know. I'm like, I don't know why I just went there, but it is true. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So he was lovely.
Little did he
And
know he created two stalkers in that moment.
yes, I was going to
'Cause
say, and then you had a little exchange with him too before I even got up there. I made it all about me, but
well, I had two books. I had my original book that I had brought to lend to you so you could read it, and then I
oh,
had the
great.
new book that I had just bought. And when I told him my name was Marnie, he was like, "Oh, that's a lovely name. Where's And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm named after a kleptomaniac from an Alfred Hitchcock movie." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And then I regret not saying, "Feel free to name a character after me in your
Yes,
next book." But
yes, that would have been perfect.
That would have been. Oh
Yeah,
my
maybe I should
gosh.
send him an Instagram message and just say, "Hey, I don't know if you remember
yeah,
me, but."
yeah.
I love
But
that.
Marnie's a great name for a book character.
I love that. Thank you for sharing those stories because, as you know, I just love authors so much. So I love any of those sort of connections that we have in real time and in person. Those are so fun. But now, Marnie, we're going to ask, what fictional character would you like to meet and why?
Oh gosh, and again, there are so many. I mean, who doesn't want to live with Jamie Fraser and,
Yes, yes.
have all those experiences in the Scottish Highlands and whatnot. But I think again, it's difficult to pin it down. But for me, I've always been a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. So
Mm,
I love the TV series. I haven't read all of the stories, but I've read a lot of them. I don't know if actually, Tara, I keep recommending it to you, the Mary Russell Sherlock Holmes series. So basically, it's written by Laurie R. King, and she has an aging Sherlock Holmes married to
Ooh.
a much younger feminist woman named Mary Russell. And so this is long after all of the Conan Doyle stories have ended, and then they kind of go on these um, adventures, if you will, together. So I think I would kind of like to sit down with Mary Russell and Sherlock Holmes and
mm.
kind of go on an adventure with them. I think that would be quite cool. But barring that, Armand Gamache, I mean,
Yes,
Three
that's a good
Pines.
one. Yep.
Tara kind of you got me hooked on the Three Pines one. So
I have started reading, or I did start reading that series, that Sherlock Holmes series, and then I lost my way. I think I have to find my way back to it because I
there's
enjoyed
a
it.
lot of them, and
Yep.
some of them are better than others, as with any
Yep.
series that's been around for a long time. But I as I said, I've always been fascinated by Sherlock. And now these stories take more of the Mary Russell side of things. They're more
Hmm.
centered around her, and Sherlock is just kind of like her sidekick almost. Um, but yeah, they have a lot of feminist plot points in them that I think you would enjoy as well, Tara.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that sounds good too. I haven't heard of those, so I'll have to look at those as
Yeah.
well. So,
Yeah. I think you would like those too. I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on the Sherlock Holmes thing because I love Sherlock Holmes as well. And I'm just thinking, oh, to sit down with him would be really intimidating,
yes,
right?
That's why I would need Mary Russell there.
Yes, that so you would need like Mary Russell there just to like keep him in check kind of thing.
He seems to have mellowed out in his old age, according
Okay.
to those novels. Not quite
Mm,
as, intense as he was.
yeah. Yeah, I got that stuck in my head now. I'm like, "Oh, that's a good one, Marnie. I like that." Okay, last question. In preparing for this podcast, what did you learn about yourself as a reader?
As you can probably tell from my previous answers, that I've learned that I can't make a decision about who I want to talk to or my favorite authors. There's just so many, like, I know some people have, oh, I always read books by this person and this is my favorite genre, but I don't have that. I'm open to read almost anything for the most part. And so yeah, I think I've just learned that I'm a really indecisive person when it comes to choosing choosing genres and authors that I'm drawn to.
I think it's eclectic. You're
Yeah.
Maybe,
eclectic.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I guess I don't know. It's just I just love books.
yeah.
I would rather sit in a room with a book than a lot of people I know.
Mhm.
But I have to say too, when we think about these questions, you could ask me these same questions a week from now, and I'm going to have completely different answers. And that's kind of what I love about it, is that in the moment, this is how you feel. But again, because we're readers and we love our books and we love our characters and authors, etc., the answers could be different at any time. So yeah, I love that you are an eclectic reader and that you have so much to share. That's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. And to your point there, Rebecca, I think that the question that you asked me about a book that you'd like to read again for the first time, it's almost I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but it's almost intimidating to want to go back and read a book that you loved again for the first time. Because what if you don't love
Mhm.
it as much the second time?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's happened to me, like in the recent past, where I've especially for our book clubs. So there was a book that I read a number of years ago that I remember absolutely flooring me at the time, and it came up in our book club, and I read it again. I think it's probably almost 10 years later, and I was like, huh, okay, yeah, it's a good book, but like it didn't have the same visceral reaction to it that I did the first time around. And I think
Mhm.
it depends on where you are in your life too, when
Hmm.
you read something for the first time, and like even the Harry Potter books I read in my late 20s while I was traveling through Europe, and I probably would never have picked that book up if it hadn't been for someone on a train handing it to me and me thinking, okay, you're traveling with a backpack, you can't carry that many books around with you,
Yeah.
and then reading it for the first time, and it's like, if I read that again for the first time now, would it be? But I mean, I read it several times, so yeah, I'd probably still have the same reaction.
Yeah. Marnie, thank you so much for joining us. I love your titles that you talked about, the authors, the characters, etc. And you've the good thing is I love hearing all of it. The bad thing is it just adds more to my to be read list. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for mentioning people I didn't know or titles I didn't know. But we just have loved having you. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Before I say goodbye, Marnie, would you care to share what book that was that you reread and didn't,
Oh
or would
yeah.
you rather not?
No, yeah, absolutely. It was
Yeah.
Cutting for Stone.
Oh, I don't know that.
Yeah, Abraham Verghese, I think is his name,
Oh,
if I'm saying it correctly.
okay.
Yeah, it was. I mean, not that it's a bad book. It wasn't. Like
Yeah.
the people who had read it for the first time in our book club thought it was a bit on the long side, but I'm not intimidated by long books, so I don't,
Yeah.
that usually doesn't bother me. But they all liked it, but for me, it was just, and I should say I had a very poignant Goodreads review. It was excellent book, read it now. and, I, and then I was like, okay, that was profound, Marnie. What exactly did you like about this book? But again,
Okay.
reading it again, it was still good. It just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So sorry about that little sideways goodbye that I took. But yes, thank you, Marnie, for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on our bookish journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing Canada Reads American Style wherever you listen. You can connect with the podcast and Rebecca on Instagram
at Canada Reads American Style and with Tara at On a Branch Reads. Until next time, keep reading.